Good evening, Internet. How you doing tonight? This is Jeremy Reads Aloud, Self-Help Books. And before I go to bed, I'm going to read another subheading of Chapter 7 of the book King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. And we're reading Chapter 7, The Magician, page 111 to page 116, The Shadow Magician, the Manipulator and the Denying, quote-unquote, Innocent One. Here we go. We've already discussed the history of the magicians in literature and mythology. Now we're going to discuss, and we also discussed some noble magicians. We're going to now talk about the shadow magician, or the negative polarity of the magician. As positive as the magician archetype is, like all the other forms of the mature masculine energy potentials, it too has a shadow side. If ours is an age of the magician, then it is also an age of the bipolar shadow magician. We need only to think about the mushrooming problem of toxic wastes poisoning and blighting our planet's environment. The mops and buckets of the sorcerer's apprentice, and proliferating as the ozone layer yawns open, as the oceans throw back our trash, as wildlife perishes, many species to complete extinction, as the Brazilian rainforests come down, not only destroying the ecology of Brazil, but threatening the globe's capacity to produce enough oxygen to sustain most life forms. It was the shadow magician that handed us, in the darkest days of World War II, not only the technology of the death camps, but also the doomsday weapon that still hangs over all our heads. Mastery over nature, a proper function of the magician, is running amok, and with incalculable results that we are already beginning to feel. Behind the propaganda ministries, the controlled press briefings, the censored news, and the artificially orchestrated political rallies lies the face of the magician as manipulator. The active pull of the shadow magician is, in a special sense, a power shadow. A man under this shadow doesn't guide others as a magician does. He directs them in ways they cannot see. His interest is not in initiating others by graduated degrees that they can integrate and handle into better, happier, and more fulfilled lives. Rather, the manipulator maneuvers people by withholding from them information they may need for their own well-being. He charges heavily for the little information he does give, which is usually just enough to demonstrate his superiority and his great learning. The shadow magician is not only detached, he is also cruel. Regrettably, a good example of this can be found in our graduate schools. A number of graduate students, bright, gifted, and hard-working, have told us of shadow magician experiences with their professors. Rather than accessing the magician appropriately and thus serving as guides for these young people's initiation into the esoteric, page 112, esoteric realm of advanced studies, these men habitually attacked their students, seeking to crush their enthusiasm. Unfortunately, this scenario is repeated all too frequently in educational institutions on all levels, from kindergarten to medical school, from high school to trade school. Many men involved in modern medicine demonstrate this power shadow too. It is well known that the best money in medicine is made by the specialist, who is an initiate into rarefied fields of knowledge. There are, no doubt, many medical specialists who are genuinely interested in their patients' well-being, but many of these men will not tell their patients important details about what is wrong with them. Especially in the field of oncology, doctors routinely withhold vital information that would allow their patients to prepare themselves and their families for the treatment ordeal to come, as well as for the possibility of death. Furthermore, the soaring costs of medicine, especially of exotic equipment and procedures, testify to the greed not only for power, the power that secret knowledge brings its possessor, but also for material wealth that men possessed by the manipulator fall victim to. These men are using their secret knowledge for their own purposes, first and only secondarily, if at all, for the benefit of others. The growing complexity of law and the coded language of legal proceedings and documents, whatever else they may be intended for, clearly proclaim to the general public, we in the legal profession have access to hidden knowledge that can make or break you. And after we've charged you an outrageous fee for our services, you may or may not benefit from our magic. Too often, as well in the consulting room, the therapist will withhold information that the client needs in order to get better and will subtly, or not so subtly, communicate to the client, I am the keeper of great wisdom and secret knowledge, a wisdom and a knowledge you need in order to become well. I have it. Try to get it from me. And by the way, leave your check with my secretary on the way out. This withholding and secretiveness for the purpose of self-aggrandizement are also to be seen on Madison Avenue. The wholesale manipulation of the public psyche by the advertisers to feed the greed and status seeking of the companies they work for, even to the point of outright lying, displays a cynical detachment from the realm of page 114 of genuine relatedness that is every bit as destructive and self-serving as anything done by the propaganda ministries of totalitarian governments. Through their skillful use of images and symbols that appeal to the wounds of their fellow human beings, these charlatans rattle the beads and shake the feathers of the black magic practitioner, the evil sorcerer, the voodoo witch doctor. Take a brief break to page 113. To see an illustration from a classic monster movie. And here we have a description on page 113. The Mad Scientist from Werewolf of London. Photo courtesy of Culver Pictures Incorporated. Moving back to page 114. Next paragraph. The man under the power of the manipulator not only hurts others with his cynical detachment from the world of human values and his subliminal technologies of manipulation, he also hurts himself. This is the man who thinks too much, who stands back from his life and never lives it. He is caught in a web of pros and cons about his decisions and lost in a labyrinth of reflective meanderings from which he cannot extricate himself. He is afraid to live, to leap into battle. He can only sit on his rock and think. The years pass. He wonders where the time has gone, and he ends by regretting a life of sterility. He is a voyeur, an armchair adventurer in the world of academia. He is a hair splitter. In his fear of making the wrong decision, he makes none. In his fear of living, he also cannot participate in the joy and pleasure that other people experience in their lived lives. If he is withholding from others and not sharing what he knows, he eventually feels isolated and lonely. To the extent that he has hurt others with his knowledge and his technology, in whatever field and in whatever way, by cutting himself off from living relatedness with other human beings. He has cut off his own soul. A number of years ago, there was a Twilight Zone story about a man possessed by the shadow magician in this way. This man loved to read, and believed himself to be superior to his fellow human beings. He rebuffed others' attempts to get to know him and to get him to share his rather considerable knowledge. Then one day there was a nuclear war. This man was the last human being left alive on the earth. Rather than being devastated about this development, he was elated, and he hurried to the nearest library. There he found the building in ruins and thousands of books scattered on the ground. In great joy he bent over to look at the first heap of them and dropped his glasses in the rubble. The lenses shattered. Whenever we are detached, unrelated, and withholding when what we know could help others, whenever we use our knowledge as, page 115, as a weapon to belittle and control others, or to bolster our status or wealth at others' expense, we are identified with the shadow magician as manipulator. We are doing black magic, damaging ourselves as well as those who could benefit from our wisdom. The passive pole of the magician's shadow is what we are calling the naive or quote-unquote innocent one. The innocent one is a carryover from childhood into adulthood of the passive pole of the precocious child's shadow. The dummy. The man possessed by the innocent one wants the power and status that traditionally come to the man who is a magician, at least in the societally sanctioned fields. But he doesn't want to take the responsibilities that belong to a true magician. He does not want to share and to teach. He does not want the task of helping others in the careful step-by-step way that is necessary part of every initiation. He does not want to be a steward of sacred space. He doesn't want to know himself, and he certainly doesn't want to make the great effort necessary to become skilled at containing and channeling power in constructive ways. He wants to learn just enough to derail those who are making worthwhile efforts, while he is protesting the innocence of his hidden power motives. The man possessed by the innocent one, too good to make any real efforts himself, blocks others and seeks their downfall. Whereas the trickster plays his tricks as in part for the sake of revealing the truth, the innocent one hides truth for the sake of achieving and maintaining his own precarious status, while the trickster aims at the necessary deflation of our grandiosity. The shadow magician, as both manipulator and innocent one, works at deflating us when such deflation is not only unnecessary, but harmful as well. The innocent one's underlying motivations come from envy of those who act, who live, who want to share. Because the man possessed by the innocent one is envious of life. He is also afraid that people will discover his lack of life energy and throw him off his very wobbly pedestal. His detachment and his impressive behavior, his deflating remarks, his hostility toward questions, even his accumulated expertise are all designed to cover his real inner desolation and hide his actual lifelessness and irresponsibility from the world. The man possessed by the quote-unquote innocent one commits both sins of commission and sins of omission, but hides his hostile motives behind. Page 116. Behind an impenetrable wall of feigned naivete. Such men are slippery and elusive. They do not allow us to engage them frontally with our warrior energy. They parry our attempts to confront them, thus keeping us off balance by seducing us into an endless process of questioning our own intuitions about their behavior. If we challenge their quote-unquote innocence, they will often react with a show of tear-jerking bewilderment and leave us to stew in our own juices. We may even feel ashamed of ourselves for having attributed base motives to them and conclude that we must be paranoid. But we will not be able to escape the uneasy feeling that we have been manipulated. And in that feeling, we will have detected the active pull of the magician's shadow behind the smokescreen of quote-unquote innocence. We're going to take a little break here, folks, on page 116. To the next video, I'll be reading the subheading Accessing the Magician. We're reading the book King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, and we are reading chapter 7, The Magician. Thank you for watching, folks. I appreciate very much you reading with me. And you get the book yourself if you haven't already. Click the Amazon link below and leave a like if you haven't already, and leave some comments and questions. I will answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you for watching, folks. Young men, it's time to integrate the archetypes. Have a great week and take care of each other, folks. We'll talk to you again. Bye.